kind attention here this morning. Who has the first question? We have a young man with a microphone.
I know most of us are living this literally, but how do you function when the babies outnumber the mature? As an example, for instance, our ministry at our local clinic is very difficult and somewhat suffering right now because the people who were going out with me have ceased to go out with me for a myriad of reasons. And so it's just me and my children, and it's very difficult, and I can't always go. And I don't even know how to explain it. I've talked to several churches in our area who are within the area of the clinic, and they've said, it's nice that you go, but, whatever. So how do you function when the babies outnumber the mature? How do you continue with your ministry when there's more ministry than you can handle? It feels a little like David and Goliath sometimes.
Yeah. Had a discussion yesterday with a gentleman on our Mid-Atlantic Reformation Society board, Randy. Some of you know him. And I just want to talk to him, and I want to thank him for what he had done for me years ago when I ran for office in Berks County. I ran for a row office in Berks County. And did I know you guys when that happened? Okay. I knew you too.
Yeah.
And you helped me with that campaign. And I wanted to call up Randy and tell him how thankful I was for him. Because here's what happened in that campaign. And we raised, I think, like $15,000. Decent amount of money back then. Spent all of it trying to get elected in a Republican primary. So much we could talk about that, but we'll try to limit it to what the question was. Here's what I really liked about Randy. One thing I loved about him was, first of all, he had a real clear vision of what was going on. And if you've ever run for political office, you know that your vision can get really goofed up. You can convince yourself that just do this one little thing here, you're going to get elected. And you're working so hard to get elected that your vision can get skewed. You need people around you who have a clear view of what's going on. Randy did. The other thing I liked about him was the pagans were afraid of him. When they come in with some foolish deal, and this happened because it was known that I was a Christian. And the funny thing was, there were these other pagans that wanted to connect their campaign with mine because they knew I had a good name. And they'd come with these deals, hey, let's do this commercial together on the radio. And Randy would tell them to go get lost, which was a good thing. Because they weren't concerned about the kingdom of Christ or his word. And I had to call him and just thank him for the assistance that he gave me. But one of the things that we found out, and this is where I want to address your question. One of the things that we learned quickly was this. Understand this, my friends. Please understand this. That if you run for office, and you even begin to hint at talking about the lordship of Christ and the authority of his word, who is it that you think is going to, I'll ask you since this is interaction time, I want to ask you, who do you think will run away from you the fastest and the first when you start talking about it? Who do you think runs the fastest? Who do you think? Absolutely. It's not the pagans who go running, it's the professing Christians. Because you know why? They want to be seen as being, in this case, good Republicans. And the good Republicans don't get involved with these fringe lunatic people that want to talk about Christ and his word. They run the fastest and the furthest. Maybe, just maybe, they were never with you. Ever. Run for office, you'll find out about political parties. Yeah.
An advertisement for Tuesday's
Mid-Atlantic Reformation Society is that as you speak about the remnant, and the title of the talk is Isaiah's Job, Liz just asked, or mentioned that there's more ministry than there are people who do it. But that's always going to be the case, first of all. And secondly, as we talk about Isaiah's job, the point is to be the voice, to be the signpost, and be there when you can, in the ministries that you can. So it's just a comment, not really a question.
Well, thanks, John, and that is a good commercial for Tuesday, because I'm really excited about what we have to talk about on Tuesday. What we have to share on Tuesday at the Mid-Atlantic Reformation Society was kind of mind-changing for me when I first read it a few years ago. And to not give it all away, but we're always saying, as John pointed out, there's so much work and so little labor. Where is everybody? And what we'll talk about on Tuesday briefly, I hope I'm not talking too much, problem I've had from time to time. Yeah, is that Elijah, a great prophet of God, my favorite prophet that didn't write a book, by far, misunderstood the workers. Anybody remember how far he was off? He thought he was the only one. Remember how far he was off? Remember the number? It was 7,000, right? The dear man, he had a lot of things right. He was even a prophet. But he miscounted the true servants of God by 7,000. So thanks, John, for that point. We're going to talk about that more on Tuesday night. I'm really, really excited about that, because it has to do with what we're doing here at this church, and it has to do with what we're doing at the Mid-Atlantic Reformation Society. And it's great stuff, if I say so myself. I didn't write it. I'm going to explain it, though. I thought I saw another hand. Yes?
I also just have more of a comment.
Yes?
When you're back to the subject about growing up,
Yes?
we have a good friend who, he just talks about the modern college and universities as just being a time where we prolong adolescence.
No
And so
doubt.
I like that. I like that way of doing it, so.
Prolonging adolescence. Yeah, I heard one of my favorite lecturers, Bo Marinoff, speaking about that recently. He talked about the fact that at one time, I think a few of you may have heard this lecture. He talked about the fact that at one time, people lied about their age in order to do adult things. Now we lie about our age to stay babies. What a mess. Yes.
So back to 1 Samuel 17,
Yes.
and just thinking about Eliab and his jealousy of David, and obviously I think it can stem back from the chapter before where David gets anointed and not Eliab.
Right. Yes, Samuel passed them over.
Right. And so I'm wondering if deep down Eliab knew, because obviously Saul didn't think that David could take on Goliath, but I wonder if deep down Eliab knew that David probably had the capability, had the potential to take down Goliath, because he maybe had heard about the time he had taken down the lion, taken down the bear. And I think, and then also combining that with knowing that David was God's anointed, knowing that, God had his power on spirit and David, and I wonder if he felt like, had that sort of maybe sinking feeling in his envious heart that David was going to get this glory.
Could be. Could be had an idea. David did have an impressive resume. Not bad. Not bad resume, right? Lion and bear. Giant schmiant. I wonder if Eliab had ever taken down a lion and a bear. May have. It seems to me, it certainly seems that Eliab, think about this. Please think about it. You know, I think of Joseph Stalin, under attack from the Germans in World War II. And what was his main worry? It wasn't the Germans, it was the Christians that he had to kill. So he's still got this war going on within his own country, killing off Christians. He'd rather have lost to the Germans than the Christians. Understand that. Understand that. Would Eliab have rather? Would he have rather have been embarrassed by Goliath than embarrassed by David? I don't know. Who's got one more question? Thank you for your kind attention here this morning.